This happened nearly 2 years ago, back when I lived in a modest 2-story townhouse. I was working from home at the time, and the setup was simple. Small kitchen and living area downstairs, and 2 bedrooms upstairs, one of which I used as my office. The unit next to mine had been empty for over 3 months. Nobody had moved in or even come to check it out, so it was always quiet. One rainy evening, I was working late in the upstairs office. The only sounds were the faint ticking of rain on the roof and the soft tapping of my keyboard. Around 8 p.m, I heard a sudden thump against the wall I shared with the empty unit. I paused, confused. Then it happened again. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe someone had finally come to inspect or prep the unit for a showing. Still, I couldn't shake the oddness of it. For the next hour, strange spaced-out noises continued. Creaks, soft bumps, the kind of sounds you notice when everything else is silent. Then, just before 9:30, I heard a door open and then slowly shut. It was much louder than anything before and set off an alarm in my gut. I hadn't heard anything like that from the vacant unit in months. Curious and a little uneasy, I went downstairs and peeked out the front window. No car in the driveway, no lights, no movement. Everything looked just as it had all day. I made sure the door was locked and went back upstairs, figuring that whoever had been there had already left. I decided to push through 30 more minutes of work. The house was calm again, with nothing but the sound of the rain outside. I eventually shut off my laptop, got ready for bed, and headed to my room. That's when it happened. The sound that still haunts me. A slow, soft whistling tune echoed through the house. I froze. It was so out of place, so unexpected. I tiptoed to my bedroom door and cracked it open. The tune got louder, clearer. It was coming from inside. Not the other unit, not outside, inside. I crept down the hall, down the stairs, following the eerie melody. The living room was completely dark, but as I rounded the corner, I saw him. A man was sitting in my armchair, facing away from me. He didn't move much, just sat there, staring at the blank TV screen and whistling. I could barely make out his silhouette, but I saw his hand resting on the armrest, and in that hand what looked like a small handgun. He had to know I was there. He must have heard me. But he didn't move, didn't turn, just whistled. My heart pounded in my chest as I silently debated whether to speak or run. I didn't want to know what his intentions were. I bolted for the door as I flung it open and ran down the street. I looked back once. He hadn't followed, but I did see something that made my blood run cold. The door to the vacant unit next door was now wide open. When the police arrived, they could still hear the man's eerie whistling from outside the house. They entered carefully and found him in the exact same position. According to the officers, he slowly turned his head toward them, gave a crooked smile, dropped the gun, and let himself be arrested. They tried questioning him, but he wouldn't say a word. He had no ID, no matching fingerprints, no background they could find. It was like he didn't exist. Some thought he wanted to be arrested. Others suspected something deeper, possibly psychological. I still don't know who he was or why he was in my house. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, I wake up in a cold sweat. that same haunting whistle still echoing in my head. I was home alone during a brutal spring thunderstorm. My parents had gone out earlier in the day, but texted to say the weather had gotten so bad they'd gotten a hotel in the city and would be staying overnight. I didn't think much of it. I was used to quiet nights like this. Our house sat on the edge of a small, peaceful suburb just outside a mid-sized town. Most of the neighbours kept to themselves, and it was rare for anything out of the ordinary to happen. I warmed up some leftovers and got comfortable on the couch with the rain, hammering the windows and wind rattling the siding. That's when I heard it. Faint, but distinct. It sounded like someone knocking. At first, I thought it was just something being thrown against the house by the wind, so I ignored it. But then I heard it again, louder this time. It came from the front door, just a few feet away from where I was sitting. I froze. It was late, the storm was relentless, and no one in their right mind would be outside. Curiosity and a creeping sense of unease got the better of me. I slowly walked up to the door and peeked through the peephole. The glass was fogged, and all I could make out was sheets of rain. I didn't see anyone, but after waiting a few moments and hearing nothing else, I cautiously opened the door. No one was there. The street was empty. The only thing out of place was a set of muddy footprints leading up the porch steps, fresh enough to not have been washed away. A chill ran through me. I shut the door quickly and locked it. I debated calling my parents or even the police, but I didn't want to overreact. Maybe someone had gotten lost or was looking for shelter, and they'd already moved on. I tried to distract myself with the TV, turning the volume down so I could listen for anything else. At some point, I must have drifted off on the couch. When I woke up, the house was pitch black. I wasn't sure what woke me until I checked my phone and saw several missed calls and texts from my parents saying they were still stuck at the hotel. That's when I heard it, a heavy footstep directly above me in my bedroom. This wasn't the house creaking or storm noises. It was deliberate. Someone was in my room. My heart dropped. I grabbed my phone, silenced it, and slipped into the downstairs bathroom, locking the door behind me and sitting silently in the dark. I dialed 911 in a whisper, barely breathing. I listened as the footsteps crept down the stairs. Whoever it was walked right past the bathroom, slowly, until I heard them in the kitchen. Then, nothing. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, a loud bang came at the front door, followed by voices shouting. It was the police. I bolted out. The intruder was gone. The sliding back door was left slightly open. Somehow, the storm had drowned out the sound of them breaking in. But the worst part, I never saw them, never heard their voice, never found out who they were, or what they were looking for. It happened again, but this time years later, after I'd moved into my own place in another quiet suburb. It was raining hard, just like that night. I got home from work late, heated up some leftovers, and settled into the couch. That's when I heard the knock. A man stood on my porch, drenched in a black raincoat, hair plastered to his face. He looked tired, emotionless. He asked if I'd seen his dog. I hadn't. He nodded, eyes lingering a little too long inside the house behind me, and turned to leave. 15 minutes later, he knocked again. This time, I was cautious. He said he saw his dog run into my backyard and asked if he could go back and check. I agreed but didn't open the door any wider. As I shut it, he took a step forward, like he expected to come in through the house. I locked the door and watched from the kitchen window as he circled the yard. I caught him peering directly into the back door glass, face inches from mine. I jumped. He asked if I was sure the dog wasn't inside. I told him no, firmly, but he kept asking. Then he started banging on the glass. That's when I called the police. As soon as he saw my phone, he backed off and left. A week later, the police told me about another incident, almost identical. A man knocked on a couple's door asking about a lost dog. Only that time, someone let him in. It ended badly. I don't know what that man wanted, but I know one thing. I was lucky. I didn't open that door.